Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching Policy Watch with me, Frank Pereira. GST or Goods and Services Tax set to launch on July 1st is a multi-stage destination-based tax that will be levied on every value addition. Set to revolutionize the way India does its taxes, GST will be levied on value additions at each stage of the production cycle. Buying raw materials, processing, manufacturing, warehousing and sale to customers, the monetary worth added to each stage to achieve the final sale to the end customer will be taxed. The final consumer will thus bear only the GST charged by the last dealer in the supply chain, with set-off benefits at all the previous stages. In what makes it significantly different from the existing system, GST is a destination-based tax. Currently, the central government levies excise duty on the manufacture and then the state adds VAT when the item is sold to the next stage in the cycle. GST would apply to all goods other than crude petroleum, motor spirit, diesel, aviation, turbine fuel and natural gas. It would apply to all services barring a few. On this edition of Policy Watch, we'll analyze this revolutionary tax law one last time before its big launch just in a couple of hours' time. Joining me on the program today are Sunil Sinha, economist and director, India Ratings; Ajay, former secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry; MK Venu, founding editor, The Wire. We'll also shortly be joined by Navin Kumar, GSTN chairman. I'd like to begin with Mr. Dua. Mr. Dua, you know, a lot debated right here on Rajya Sabha television about the challenges and how prepared we are and how ill-prepared maybe we are as well. But then we've also said that this has to happen and now there's no turning back whatsoever. But more than, talking about the challenges per se, do you believe that the people, there's a sense of nervousness and there's a sense of anxiety as well with what might happen come Saturday?
Yes, I would admit that. Clearly, this shift to a new set of new indirect taxation regime, I wouldn't say has left people confounded, but they are uncertain about how it will, actually spell out. One, there are doubts in minds of many people that everybody in the supply chain hasn't as yet registered, particularly with respect to small and medium enterprises and individual service providers, etc., all of whom have paid taxes, and the taxes paid by them can be set off against the final tax to be paid by the final seller. There is one nervousness on that account. Second, there is uncertainty in the minds of people, particularly the smaller ones, saying how are we to make this transition from today's state, where many of them are not registered, many of them are not filing returns, to a totally to a regime where every invoice has to be uploaded and accounted for. This could well mean that if they don't do their bit, for whatever reason, one, they are not familiar; second, the network is not ready; third, there are issues about people in dealers in remote areas, inaccessible areas where electricity is issues of broadband, etc., are there. That what would happen? Will it be that taxes continues to be collected from those people, but they are not in the network, so there is no set off? Then the final person will end up paying the whole bit.
Sure.
So the tax burden will actually increase rather than coming down. So there is uncertainty in the minds of the broad public, uncertainty in the minds of the suppliers, uncertainty in the minds of, I would even say, the network providers.
Sure.
Because some degree of confusion, doubts have been raised whether the network, we've been working on in it for last 4 years, since March 2013, I'm aware of that. And it's a private company, no longer the government company, is 51% held by outside the government. All those flexibilities, etc., have been given. But some doubts have been raised whether are they actually ready on 1st of July or will they get ready after 1st of September.
Sure.
So those kind of things have added to or become causes for nervousness across the line.
Indeed. MK Venu, Mr. Dua has spoken about several uncertainties at the moment. Do you believe that the government and the people or the officials concerned have done enough to try and deal with these uncertainties?
Well, first of all, purely in terms of nomenclature, I would not call this revolutionary because I think it's evolutionary. Because a form of GST, half of GST's state VAT has already happened, and as some very well respected economic commentators have been saying, we've had state VAT, we've had Sen VAT, we have had mod VAT, we have input tax credit, etc. So some of the experiments in small ways happening. What GST does is, I'm not undermining the importance of GST. It's a very important tax reform. It tries to collapse these into one tax. My problem is there is not much application of mind which has gone in the design and implementation of GST. See, a reform, everybody agrees with the basic principle behind the reform, but a reform is as good as the way it is implemented. If you don't design it well, a bad design can actually discredit the principle, the idea, the philosophy behind the reform, right? So I have this fear, besides what Dua Sahab just said about technical glitches and other network problems, the ability of the computer to process 1 crore returns and invoices. That's a separate issue. The preparedness of the technology backbone and the procedurally how value everybody gets, will they get captured in the value chain in exactly the way they should be. If some people don't get input credit, costs will go up. Now my worry is the complexity of this, the design itself is so complex that none other than the chief economic advisor to finance minister or in the finance ministry, Arvind Subramaniam, wrote a piece on 1st April in Indian Express and Business Standard, where he very clearly says that the 28% slab should have been done away with. There should have been just maybe 0, 5, 12, 18. I would say even 0, 5, 18 would have been best, because now what is happening is, all those who are in a large number of consumer items have been put on 28. Now, Arvind Subramaniam has said that with so many items on 28, we are not substantially lower than the tax incidence pre-GST. So then he's raised this question: if you have so many items under 28% slab, then is it worth having a GST? He's raised that question. And up to a point, Finance Minister Jaitley was also supporting what Subramaniam was saying. His advisor was saying, and I remember Jaitley saying that we'll publicly on record saying that we'll try to.
But it could be work in progress. They can tweak it as things go along.
Yeah. So the 66 items were actually reviewed in the last meeting on the 11th of June. And duties were lowered on some of them.
So my point, I tell you what, you're right. It's work in progress, but Subramaniam also warns in that article that once you put a tax rate, you study historically in the finance ministry, he would know, but once you put something on a tax slab, reducing that becomes very difficult, because in this case it's not just the center which decides. You have to go to the GST council. Earlier industry, they'll go to the finance minister and try to sort of persuade, lobby. Here you have to lobby with 29 states. I think it will be very tough, and what happens in the first 2 years will actually determine I believe, the trajectory of this reform.
Right.
If you mess up in the first 2 years or first 1.5 years, after that I think correcting will be very difficult. So I think the tax structures, the complicated tax structures, and number two, it's not even one commodity, one nation, one tax today, because in several commodities, especially services, in restaurants, there are multiple tax. AC restaurant will have one tax, non-AC one tax. So there's massive confusion, and services sector, India's 60% of India's GDP is services. I think services sector will take a big hit in terms of inflation, because everything is going up from say 14, 15 to 18.
18%.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think in inflation terms, all the CPI, consumer price index, doesn't capture services, but people will feel that.
Sure.
I think that's one big risk.
You know, Sunil Sinha, I'd like to bring you into the picture now. You know, something that MK Venu said about how, you know, people have been calling it one nation, one tax, but in its true sense, it's not really one nation, one tax, because there are several things
One
that have
commodity, one tax.
yeah, there are several things that have been left out of the ambit of GST, for instance, petroleum products.
Real estate.
Yes, certainly.
Real estate as well, yes.
Electricity.
Certainly, you know, I mean, the whole idea or the principle behind GST is that you have a tax structure which is fairly simple to administer and fairly simple to understand. It's not complicated. But unfortunately, the way GST is unfolding in the Indian context, it may be somewhat less complicated than the current structure. But to say that it is a movement from to a situation where tax structure is fairly simple to understand and execute is not correct. Firstly, that we have number of slabs. Then even within number of slabs, say for example on cars, you have 20. I mean, they have been put under the 28% bracket, and thereafter you have a cess. Now, all of that simply means that administering the tax is not going to be simpler as it was envisaged under GST. And as Mr. Venu was telling us, that in case of services sector, you have these categorization that if hotel is an AC, you will fall under this bracket. If you are non-AC, you will. I mean, so in other words, what has happened is that you have just graduated from one type of taxation structure to a slightly better taxation structure, but certainly it is no way what is called perfect GST as it is implemented in many countries across the world. So, for example, in UK, you have a flat 17.5% tax. That's it.
Right.
There are no complications.
You know,
there are no disputes.
Hold that thought. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the GSTN chairman, Navin Kumar, is joining us on the phone line right now. You know, Navin Kumar, you would have heard what the other panelist has just said. You know, the GST could have been far more simplified, but at the moment it seems to be a little crude and a little too complicated, is the allegation that is being made.
See, so far as we are concerned, at GSTN we have no issues. Whether there is a single rate or 5 rates, technologically handling it is no issue at all. Therefore, we are working according to the tax rates which the GST Council has finalized, and our system will be is quite adaptable to that.
Yeah. No. Obviously, since his mandate is to manage the whole network which will process the GST tax, I don't think he'll comment on the policy per se, because I've interviewed him on your channel before. That's been his position. But I would like to ask him whether the preparedness is full as of today, and whether the system has been tested for for a crore people, businesses that may that may want to register. So that's a worry that people have.
That is Mr. MK Venu's question to you. He is the founding editor of The Wire.
Yeah, that's. Let me tell you that we are fully prepared and our system is fully tested. I don't know why this erroneous impression has been created that GSTN has a deployed system without testing. It's absolutely wrong. When you consider a large IT system like the one we have built, it requires rigorous testing on two aspects. One is the functional testing, and the other is the non-functional parts. The functional parts are basically the software for which we have conducted the unit testing, the system integration testing, the release testing, and the user acceptance testing. Not only that, we have also conducted a beta testing with actual users. So this is about the software. About the entire system, we have conducted performance testing. We have conducted, security testing, and all the required testing have been done. And there should be no apprehension on that account. And we are fully prepared. For rollout of GST on 1st July, there are two prerequisites. One is the migration of the existing taxpayers, and the other is to provide facility for registering new taxpayers. Now, as you know, we had commenced enrollment in November 2016, and until now, more than 80% of existing taxpayers have already migrated. And on 25th June, we have reopened the window for them, and it will continue for 3 months.
Right.
So far as the new registration is concerned, that has also started from 25th. And as of now, about 160,000 people have already filed their applications. So we are fully ready with a fully tested system.
Okay, fair enough. Ajay Dua, former Secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, has a question for you now.
Mr. Navin Kumar, just two issues. One, why did we have to stop registration of customers earlier and then after a hiatus restart it on 25th of June? Was it a question of certain rectifications having to be made to the network that which required that we do not continue with the exercise? And second, is the managing of the various helplines which whose numbers etc. are being given, is that also your responsibility? Because there is a lot of adverse opinion coming in the press saying that the systems are not ready. That is why the questions are not, that none of these helplines is working.
No, the helplines are very, perfectly working, and we are having very high call volumes over there, and there is no problem with regard to that. Your first question was regarding what? Can you just repeat that?
The registration of...
Okay, registration part.
Yes.
That's not registration, that's migration. We started the process of migration in November 2016.
Very right.
Our plan was to continue it for 5 months, that is up to March. But then on request, we continued it up to 30th April. So 6 months we kept it open. And then what we found was that initially the people coming to the portal was slow, but then it picked up, and then we were having more than 1 lakh, enrollments every day, and the peak was 2 lakhs. Then it started coming down slowly, and it came down to 5,000. So then we thought that perhaps this is the time to stop because people are not coming any longer. So we'll stop and see whether there is still demand for this. So we stopped that. And then we found that there were more requests. So we again opened a window in June, from 1st June to 15th June. So this time, against the 60 lakhs that had come in the first tranche, this time 6 lakhs came. So after that, we again closed it because now we had to deploy our main system for the registration and all that. So now we have again opened because the law says that the people who want to migrate, they have to be given opportunity for months after the rollout date. So this time we have opened, it will continue for 3 months.
Sure.
Can I ask you one?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Mr. Navin Kumar, tell me, who does this fall under, your domain or the Finance Ministry's domain? I've been speaking to some of the apex shopkeepers and traders bodies. They say that there are about 5-6 crore traders, shopkeepers, stroke small service providers, and they say that 70% of them do not have access to computers, and they don't know how to sort of, since this tax has to be paid electronically, so they are not prepared at all. And they claim that the government is saying that there are some 1,000 centers have been created for them to come and submit their returns electronically. Suvidha providers, etc. there. Now, is this being handled by the government, or is this part being handled by you, the sort of electronic connecting electronically with
those contact programs are being conducted by the government. We know that there is a huge program going on throughout the country where the idea is to sensitize the taxpayers to make them conversant with the law and the processes. But that is going on.
Okay, fair enough. All right, do stay with us, Mr. Navin Kumar. I'm going to come back to you for another reaction after getting reactions from the studio here, and then a final reaction from you as well. Sunil Sinha, you were making a point. I'm sorry, I cut you short while you were making that point. But there is this sense that GST is going to be extremely cumbersome. Do you believe that it is going to be extremely taxing on the people who have to file their returns?
Well, I mean, by nature, the way this tax functions requires that you have to maintain enough records. Then only you will be able to claim your tax set-offs, which was not the case in earlier systems. So certainly, the burden of the traders, manufacturers, or anyone who is in the business will be much more, and you have to be more meticulous in terms of procuring them, keeping them, and then filing them. Any lapse on your part can be onerous for you, because you will be breaking the system or breaking the chain. So to that extent, certainly. And it is here that I think particularly the small businesses who were never in habit of maintaining such meticulous record will find it a little more difficult as compared to the large businesses, because large businesses in any case had the wherewithal to do all of these things, and in many ways they were doing that. So they may find migration somewhat easier, but the small and medium enterprises will find it much more difficult.
Sure.
Now the question is that what really has been done till date to not only educate them, but to facilitate the whole process in which they can come forward and file their returns and do not face the teething problem.
Okay.
This part is still not known. I mean, it is somewhat vague.
Right. I have 5 minutes left on the program, so I'd like to get to Mr. Navin Kumar's reaction on this and then get closing comments from my other guests as well. Mr. Kumar, do you have a software? I understand that you have a software in place to address some of the problems that have just been raised by Mr. Sunil Sinha.
Sure. Let me first tell you that these 80 lakh existing taxpayers who are migrating to GST, these are taxpayers of VAT, Central Service Tax. All these taxes are computerized. Thanks to the Mission Mode project run by Government of India, where a lot of financial assistance was given to the states, the commercial tax has been computerized, and all taxpayers are now used to e-filing. Therefore, this apprehension that the taxpayers don't know how to deal with computers or file returns on electronic form, that is not correct, because these people have already been filing their returns electronically. And so far as the MSMEs, the small taxpayers are concerned, under GST, in fact, you see, compliance burden will go down, because they are supposed to give only their turnover data. If you are in composition scheme, you only have to give your turnover and the tax payable on that. And if you are a small taxpayer and you have only business to consumer transactions, then you have turnover and the tax. Only when you are selling to another business, those data have, invoice level data have to be provided in the system. And then you don't have to provide the purchase data at all. You have to provide only the sales data, which will be populated, auto-populated in the purchase register of the purchasers. So if you look at it, the compliance requirements under GST are in fact much lower than the compliance requirements under the existing taxes.
Okay.
I just want to ask,
there should be no apprehension.
Yeah, Mr. Navin Kumar, I agree with you that all the existing taxpayers, whether they pay VAT or excise or service, they are familiar with the system and they are already connected with you. But the whole idea of GST was that it will expand the tax base to such an extent that I am told, some of the Traders Association tell me that there is potential of another 1 crore people coming and registering with you over the next 2-3 years.
Actually, they are claiming they have 6 crore members.
So I think
of the traders.
Those are the people that we need to focus on. Isn't that true?
But quick response from you, Mr. Kumar, and then I'll have to close the show.
You see, they are welcome, and let me tell you that from 25th to today, in 3 days, more than 1,60,000 applications we have already received for new registrations. So you can understand, normally the growth rate of taxpayers in any of the existing taxes, VAT or service tax, is about 5% per year. But here you have a situation where 1,60,000 people already filed their applications.
All right, fair enough. Mr. Doan, close the show for us.
New taxpayers will come, the tax base will definitely expand.
Right.
Say, I wish Mr. Navin Kumar and the government all the best in that major change which they are envisaging from tomorrow. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed that, one, there should not be a technological failure. Second, as we move on, apart from the rates being rationalized, the procedures will be made far more simpler, less cumbersome, and that the setup, at least for the 1 year, would be more by way of doing hand holding rather than finding faults. Otherwise, there could be a reaction, and the reaction, if we have whether 6 crore traders or not, I don't know, but we certainly have 125 crore customers.
Sure.
There could be a very major reaction which will take away all the good points of this shift to a better regime.
Fair enough. MK Venu, your concluding remark.
I agree with him. Government has no other option but to simplify this, the slabs as they go along, maybe do it fast within this year itself. And number two, they have to do something to mitigate, as Sunil had said, the high cost, transaction costs which the small businesses will incur. I've shopkeepers who are saying that lawyers have come to them saying you have to pay 10,000 rupees a month. They're saying that where will I get this kind of money? So I think this has to be addressed.
Okay, fair enough. Sunil Sinha, your closing comment.
Yes, certainly. I mean, I think the biggest, point that needs to be focused is, as Mr. Dua as well as Mr. Venu is talking about, is that we have to do the hand-holding to the extent that the skepticism or the fear is done away with, and
right.
even if there are some failures, we learn from that and we move on, because at no point of time we can allow the system to collapse, which can then completely discredit this whole transition from the existing to the new tax.
Fair enough. Mr. Kumar, I'm going to let you have the last say on the program today. Your quick closing comment on the show.
Yes, what I want to say is that GSTN geared to implement GST, and we are taking special care of the small taxpayer. We are providing an offline utility which we are going to release early July, which they can use on their computers. They can download it free, and they can put all the data for filing the returns there. It will be uploaded by that offline tool to our system. So this we have done keeping in mind these small taxpayers. So there's no need for them to worry about filing of tax returns under GST.
Okay, no need to worry. It's work in progress. Everything will fall in place is what you have to say. Let's hope and see what happens really in the days to come. Of course, the GST will be live in just a short while from now. I'd like to thank all my guests for joining me on the program. Navin Kumar, Sunil Sinha, Ajay Dua and MK Venu. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for putting things into perspective for us. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for watching.